There comes a sacred moment in life when God lifts the veil, not for the crowd, not for critics, but for the one who prayed for you when no one else believed. It is the moment when a mother's heart finally understands the truth about you. She may have seen your silence and mistaken it for weakness. She may have watched your waiting and feared you were lost, but faith works in hidden places, and God builds his strongest servants where applause cannot reach. What she didn't see, heaven recorded. What she questioned, God was preparing. And when the timing of the Lord arrived, understanding replaced doubt, and truth replaced fear. This is not just a story about a mother. It is a reminder that when God is shaping you, not everyone will understand until he reveals it himself. Today, let us talk about faith that matures in silence, purpose that survives misunderstanding, and the divine moment when truth is finally seen, not explained. She remembered the early prayers spoken over you before words formed on your lips, because when God defends you, even the closest hearts begin to see clearly. She carried you before she ever understood you. She prayed over you before she knew what those prayers would cost. From the day you took your first breath, her love watched every step, yet even love does not always recognize the work of God while it is still hidden. There were seasons when your silence worried her, moments when your waiting looked like delay, times when obedience to God appeared like confusion to a watching heart. She wondered why you moved differently, why you refused shortcuts, why you trusted promises that had no visible proof. What she could not see was that faith often grows underground. God does the deepest work where human eyes grow impatient. Roots are strengthened in darkness long before fruit appears in daylight. You were not slow, you were not lost, you were being shaped. While questions filled her mind, heaven was busy arranging details. While doubt whispered, prayer was still working. While understanding lagged behind, God remained ahead of time. There were nights she asked God for answers, and days she watched you struggle without explanation. She loved you enough to worry, and trusted God enough to keep praying. And every prayer she released returned with purpose, even when results delayed. Faith is not proven when everything makes sense. Faith is proven when obedience continues without applause. You chose to stand when it would have been easier to blend in. You chose truth when compromise offered comfort. You chose patience when rushing promised relief. God saw every unseen sacrifice. God counted every tear that fell in private. God honored every moment you trusted the promise instead of the pressure. Then came the moment only God can arrange, not forced, not explained, not defended. Understanding arrived quietly. She looked at you and saw more than effort. She saw grace. She saw strength shaped by surrender. She saw wisdom formed through waiting. She saw that what once looked like delay was divine preparation. The confusion lifted, not because you spoke louder, but because God revealed truth gently. What arguments could not prove, faith revealed. What time alone could not explain, God clarified in a single moment. Her heart finally rested, not in pride but in peace, not in control but in trust. She realized God had been faithful all along, faithful in your struggle, faithful in your restraint, faithful in your obedience, when no one was watching. This is how God works, not to impress crowds, but to mature hearts, not to rush outcomes, but to refine character, not to explain every step, but to reveal truth at the appointed time. The moment she understood was not the end of the journey. It was confirmation that faith never wastes waiting, that obedience never goes unnoticed, that God finishes what faith begins. She watched you grow with hope in her eyes and fear in her prayers. She saw the choices you made that did not look safe, did not look popular, did not look logical. She wondered why your path seemed slower, heavier, quieter than others who rushed ahead and celebrated early victories. What she did not realize was that God was training you in hidden places. While others were learning how to impress people, you were learning how to trust promises. While others measured success by speed, you were being taught endurance. Faith was shaping your character long before it revealed results. There were moments she wanted to protect you from disappointment. Moments she wanted to push you forward, to urge you to take what was offered, to settle for what was available. Her concern came from love, but love does not always understand divine timing. You carried questions without answering them. You bore pressure without explaining it. You stayed obedient even when obedience felt lonely. and every silent step became a testimony written where only God could read it. Faith is rarely loud at the beginning. It whispers courage when fear speaks clearly. It asks for trust when proof is absent. It grows strongest in seasons when no one claps. She saw your waiting and thought it was weakness. She saw your restraint and mistook it for fear. She saw your isolation and worried you were losing ground. But heaven saw discipline. Heaven saw maturity. Heaven saw preparation. God does not rush what carries purpose. God does not expose what still needs refining. What looks delayed on earth is often protected in heaven. There were prayers she prayed without knowing how close they were to being answered. There were tears she shed that watered seeds she could not yet see. Every concern she lifted became part of the covering God placed over you. You learned to trust without reassurance. You learned to obey without guarantees. You learned to stand firm when misunderstanding came from those closest to you. That is where faith becomes real. Not in public victories, but in private endurance. Not in applause, but in alignment. Not in recognition, but in obedience. Then God opened her eyes, not through arguments, not through explanations, not through achievements alone. Understanding came as peace. She saw how patience had strengthened you. She saw how restraint had preserved you. She saw how surrender had refined you. What once troubled her spirit now settled it. What once confused her now comforted her. She realized the waiting was not empty. The silence was not wasted. The struggle was not pointless. She understood that God had been leading even when the road looked unclear. That faith had been working even when progress looked slow. That obedience had been protecting you from paths that looked easier but ended weaker. This is how God reveals truth, in moments that feel gentle but change everything, in clarity that does not need explanation, in peace that answers every question. She no longer worried about your pace. It was simply growing quietly until the appointed moment when understanding would rise naturally and faith would speak for itself.